was a fervent period of European cultural, artistic, political, and economic rebirth following the Middle Ages. Generally described as taking place from the 14th century to the 17th century. The Renaissance promoted the rediscovery of classical philosophy, literature, and art. Some of the greatest thinkers, authors, statesmen, scientists, and artists in human history thrived during this era. While global exploration opened up new lands and cultures to European commerce, the Renaissance is credited with bridging the gap between the Middle Ages and modern-day civilization. The Renaissance begins during the Middle Ages, a period that took place between the fall of ancient Rome in 476 Anno Domini and the beginning of the 14th century. Europeans made few advances in science and art. Also known as the Dark Ages, the era is often branded as a time of war, ignorance, famine, and pandemics such as the Black Death. Some historians, however, believe that such grim depictions of the Middle Ages were greatly exaggerated, though many agree that there was relatively little regard for ancient Greek and Roman philosophies and learning at the time. Renaissance artists. There are lots of Renaissance artists who made a lot of notable works, but here are the four greatest Renaissance artists. First, Leonardo da Vinci is heralded as a true Renaissance man, an artist, inventor, draftsman, and polymath. His best-known masterpieces include the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper, and his sketch of Vitruvian Man. Second, Michelangelo di Lodovico Buonarroti Simone, known simply as Michelangelo, an architect, artist, poet, and engineer. He is best known for his sculpture of David and famous frescoes in the Sistine Chapel depicting the scenes from Genesis and the Last Judgment. Third, Raffaello Sancho de Urbino, more commonly known as Raphael, was a painter and architect. His most famous works include his paintings of Madonna of the Pinks, Saint George and the Dragon, Sistine Madonna, the School of Athens, and many others housed in Raphael Rome's Vatican. Fourth and last one, Donato de Nicola di Beto Duardi, or Donatello, was a sculptor whose most well-known works include his bronze sculpture of David, bronze roundel of Cellini Madonna, and wooden sculpture of Penitent Magdalene. Leonardo da Vinci began painting the Mona Lisa for about 1503 and it was in his studio when he died in 1519. The painting presents a woman in half-body portrait which has a backdrop of distant landscape. The influence of the Mona Lisa in the Renaissance in later times has been enormous, revolutionizing contemporary portrait painting.
The Sistine Chapel is the largest chapel in the country. It is renowned for its Renaissance art, especially the ceiling painted by Michelangelo, and attracts more than 5 million visitors each year. At the highest of the ceiling, Michelangelo depicted 9 scenes from Genesis, including the separation of light from darkness at the altar end of the chapel, to the drunkenness of Noah at the other end of the chapel. The most famous panels are the creation of Adam and the fall of man and the expulsion from paradise. Images of prophet and pagan symbols surrounded the panels, and twisting originally controversial male notes decorated the corners.
The Vitruvian Man is a late 15th century drawing, is a prime example of such work. The piece is part work of art and part mathematical diagram, conveying the old master's belief that everything connects to everything else.
Pieta sculpture. Michelangelo claimed that the block of Carrara marble he used to work on this was the most perfect block he ever used, and he would go on to polish and refine this work more than any other sculpture he created. The Pieta shows the Virgin Mary holding the dead body of Christ after his crucifixion, death, removal from the cross before he was placed in the tomb. This is one of the key events of the life of the Virgin, known as the Seven Sorrows of Mary, which were the subject of Catholic devotional prayers.
For those who are unfamiliar with the biblical event, the Last Supper was the final meal that Jesus shared with his disciples before he was crucified. Leonardo da Vinci started his famous painting, The Last Supper, in 1495. After several failed projects, it may have been taking on to merely pay the bills. Being 43 years old at the time, Leonardo was quickly falling behind what some would have assumed his potential dictated. He hoped that this work would turn things around and make his mark on the art world.
Renaissance architecture is the European architecture of the period between the early 14th and early 16th centuries in different regions, demonstrating a conscious revival and development of certain elements of ancient Greek and Roman thought and material culture. Philippines is also known for its Renaissance quality designs architectures, but there is a magical touch of Filipinos' enhancement and creativity. Examples of Renaissance architecture here in the Philippines.
Hacer flavor de